All right. So I'm back in the cave again. Indoors. Whatever is what it is. And I just had a guest on here, Justin Meyer. We're having a great conversation about numerous experiences he's had. Holy cow. And didn't ask for it and didn't ever go looking into them and was never a Bigfoot enthusiast in any way. And the connection was lost. I don't know what's going on. I think it's on my end and the Starlink's not quite pulling it off here. So anyway, I'll continue to do what I was doing, which was read out of my notes and record it onto my laptop, and hopefully I can load this up today sometime. Don't know what's going on. Unfortunate. Shit, that sucks. It's tough. It's not that easy and simple having guests on here. When it works great. But when it fails hard. Anyway, here I am back at home. Sunburnt. As soon as I got home, I had to go work on the shop here, ripping the wood off the shop to restain it. Got stung in the face by a frickin' wasp. There's a nest behind one plank, and I was on the top of the ladder, with the ladder in the box of my truck so I could reach the peak of the shop, and that's when they came and I tore off a panel, and boom, wasp nest in my face. Anyway, kept my shit together and got down off the ladder while this thing was drilling me in the cheek. But anyway, yeah. Back in the make-believe world, society, I call it make-believe because if you saw the last video I posted and where I was, I mean, that's where I ran around for the last 20 years, running around those mountains by myself for the most part. And you just get that absolute in your face reality that that whole real world out there has been there a long time. And it's going to be there a long time. And we aren't. And everything is very real and everything fits and everything's absolutely amazing. And then you spend days out there at a time without any connection to the man-made horse shit, and then you have to go back into the man-made horse shit, and everything stands out so clear. It's amazing how crazy it is. Everything that society, the system has created is just so wrong. It's so wrong. And all you need to do, really, is go out in the real world and reconnect. Do it for a day. Do it for 2 days. Whatever. And you'll see exactly what I mean. I'll stop babbling. I'm going to get in hearing some voices. Shall we? Let's just hear some voices besides mine. Now, excuse me. Okay, now. These are all recent. Recent. Right out of the frying pan, all right? Castle Crags, California hike is the title of this email. Sometime in the early 2000s, a girlfriend and I were traveling through Mount Shasta area. We camped at Castle Crags and did a hike up to this area where there are these huge climbable boulders. It was breathtaking. At night, while in the tent, I heard footsteps. Totally unsure what they were. Being a surfer, I had no idea, and I figured a bear. It walked by our tent, and I heard sniffing. And I heard no sniffing. We hiked up to the rocks the next day after breakfast. It was awesome. For someone like me, total rookie mountain person, and climbed boulders. On the way back down, we were exiting the rocky terrain and re-entering the forest canopy via a meadow. And smack dab in the middle of the meadow, we heard a fluttering type noise as if there was a giant hummingbird, which ended up flying or what the F ever. Which ended up flying or what the F ever. One word. It was doing it right in front of our faces. It distorted our view directly in front of us briefly as it hovered for about a second or two and then bam, gone. I'm writing because I heard you read a similar story but failed to write which episode or where it happened to another person. I'm thankful for that experience. I was immediately thankful. Not sure why, but I kind of love that stuff. Stoked on everything you read and your channel. Thank you for everything you do and the truth you speak, and all the best to you and Sarah. Butch DeLong. Butch, appreciate that, man. Somebody listening is going to have something similar to chime in with. So either watch the comments below or maybe I'll get an email. But there you go. Odd experience, right? Odd experience in the real world. Keep us posted on what comes next if something does. Appreciate you, man. This next email does not have a title. Hi, Steve. This is Johanna Van Dyke, the butcher, and go ahead and use my name. I hope I didn't butcher it. Please excuse any errors you may come across, because I'm doing this with voice mailing and it seems to pick up everything. I'm still sitting here to this day in hospital with my friend and my stomach completely stitched up, but I've been thinking, well, while I lie here in my hospital room, that before all this happened, I wanted to write to you. I'll tell you my story. And I put it off, and I put it off. And within the last couple of weeks, I remember big lessons. That's life is worth living. And I'm glad I'm still alive, but I'm so afraid of dying without having done anything I wanted to do in my life. I get it. I'm stressing right now about it, so I figure instead of just emailing you, I want to tell you my story, right from when I was a kid. And believe me, there's all sorts of encounters that I didn't realize were encounters until I watched your show and heard it from over 1,000 other people. I just feel I would be a really good candidate to talk for your truth talk show. I'd have to have a conversation with you one-on-one, and $500,000. But I leave it in your hands. I do have Sasquatch experience stories that have left me mystified item today as I sit here at 55 just looking at the life I nearly lost. I'm promising myself that I want it. I'm going to do everything that I say I want to, and one of those things was getting hold of you. Hope things are good with you and Sarah, Ruby, the little one, I can't remember his name, and Milo, and little boy and mama. Milo's the next door French dog. And I love your life. I think it's just awesome existence. I think that's why I was intrigued in the first place when I started to see your videos. Anyways, I'll leave it short. I'll leave it now. I just hope you get this. Yeah, it's up to you. I think we can have an interesting conversation. I'll talk to you about it later. Bye. All right, let me... where do I put this? Look into, and I'll shuffle this off to Sarah. There you go. Hope you're feeling better, man. I don't know what happened to you, but it doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound good. All right, now here's the Castle Crags one. Again, saved twice, you dork. What's this one? All right, here we go. Here we go. This is titled Lost to Tell. All right, man. Good place to do it. Tell away. Hello, Steve. My name is Todd. This is going to be a long one. I have a lot of different encounters from alien, Sasquatch, bat people, fairies, tree ants, etc. I'm 52 years old, and I've not told my whole story as completely as I will be here. Here we go. My journey started around the age of 4. The night started as any other. I went to bed, fell asleep fast. A while later, I woke up, but I wasn't in my room. I was sitting in a chair, and the chair was on what I can only describe as a conveyor belt as it was moving. The room was bright white with no light bulbs visible. I leaned over and looked behind me, and there was a bunch of other chairs with people in them. Their eyes were open, but they looked asleep as they weren't moving. I turned back around, facing the front, and leaned over and looked beyond these seats in front of me. And I could see the tops of people's heads in the chairs, and again no movement. I sat back into my seat and glanced over to the left side and seen 2 beings doing something to the people in front of me. They would bend down and then stand back up. Then the conveyor would move forward to the next person in the chair. Then it came to my turn, and as soon as the conveyor stopped, I looked directly at the beings. It looked like they panicked, just a little as they looked at each other. A moment later, I was back in my room, back in my bed. I was told in my mind not to say anything to anyone. The next couple of days went as normal. Then again, I woke up in a strange room again. I could tell it was the same place, but a different area. Again, as it came, come to my turn, I looked at them, and again I was sent back to my room. The next night I woke up as I was floating up, and it took me a minute to realize what I was looking at. It was the roof of my house, getting farther away. That's when I freaked out. In an instant, I was in my room, but there was a blue light which lit up my room. I couldn't move anything but my eyes. I looked at my closet, looked at my dresser, looked at my shelves, but still couldn't move my arms, legs, or head. Just my eyes, and I started crying and trying to scream. And at that instant, the light was gone and I could move again. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. It took forever for the sun to overtake the nighttime dark. And as I type this out, my heart is trying to pound a hole in my chest as I relive these events. For the next week or two, everything was normal. Then came the next abduction. By this time, I was taken to an underground city. My guide was a young gray alien. As we walked through the city, it looked abandoned. There were buildings and railroad tracks. The buildings looked like any other buildings you would see nowadays, but underground in a large tunnel. All of a sudden, two tall aliens were walking toward us. I turned and ran the way we came as fast as I could to try to get away. I jumped up on what I can only describe as a trolley. Of course, I got caught, and again I was in my room. This repeated 2 more times over the next few weeks. I never felt threatened by any of them. The only time I was scared was when I was floating up and when I couldn't move at all. In my childhood, the monsters were never under the bed or in the closet. Nope, my monster was called Mom, and nothing out there could compare to that nightmare. Time went by, and it was close to Christmas time, and I was so sick I didn't think I would survive. It wasn't until my 30s I found out why I was so sick. The abductions were so that I could get internal adjustments so I could continue to live on Earth. I was told that this is one of the main reasons people get abducted. I heard today that others know about the underground world below the parks and whatnot. Actually, I was shown a map of an underground network of tunnels that connect every continent, with a huge main tunnel under the Cascade Range that goes from Mexico to Alaska, with finger tunnels branching off, covering North and South America. I've had many other encounters with aliens, but it's time to move on. Wow. I was 14, and my dad and I were out hiking and hunting for deer, and I came across a footprint. It was a little bigger than my size 10 boot. I whistled for my dad so he could take a look at it as well. He looked at the print, then looked at me and said, "Just because you know doesn't mean you say anything about it." My dad grew up in the mountains of Montana and used to hike for days in the mountains. We never talked about it again. Fast forward 15 years, and my nephew and I were hunting a new area I'd wanted to hunt for years. And as we left the truck for our hike, my nephew wanted to take the middle of the mountain, and I would take and hike the top. We were walking for a while, and I came around a boulder, and I seen a brown streak take off at an unbelievable speed. It was breaking trees as it ran, as the tops fell behind him/it. I was shaking like a dog pooping tacks. Luckily, it kept going. I was packing a 30-06, but I knew I was underarmed. I hiked down towards my nephew as I got his attention. He seen my face and said, "Yeah, I heard whatever it was." I said, "Yeah, let's get the hell out of here. I've never been back to that area." And 20 years later, my wife and I were driving down a dirt road. It was nighttime. We drove around a corner, and a reddish-brown colored sabe was standing on the edge of the road. And when it seen us, it just turned and jumped into the trees. My wife said, "What the hell was that?" I put my hand up and gave her a high five and told her, "Congratulations, you just seen your first Sasquatch." We still talk about that. And 4 years ago, I was out in the woods looking for a tree to fall and cut up for firewood. I pulled over and had to relieve myself for a bit of early morning coffee. And as I was relieving myself, I looked over the bank and seen a sabe doing the side-to-side move as it watched me relieving myself. I smiled and waved to him/her. Finished my business, I got my pickup and drove on. Got a tree down, cut it up, brought it home. I didn't think any more of it. Crazy. I was sitting the following spring. The snow had melted, and I was sitting outside early in the morning, waiting for the sun to rise above the mountains and start warming me up. I sat there for a half an hour or so thinking about what I needed to get done for the warm months. And I looked up and I seen what people have described as the predator cloaking. I rubbed my eyes, thinking there was still a little sleep in them, but nope, nothing changed. It was 25 feet from me. It stood up and walked away. I would have chalked it up as a paranormal experience, but the tall grass was moving as it walked through it. A week and a half later, I found the round table of knowledge, and the second episode I seen was of the lady in the tree stand that recorded the sabe cloaked going from tree to tree. My jaw dropped and showed my wife. She smiled and was happy for me to have found out what it was that I saw. That summer was amazing with activity. My wife and I would sit on our porch and listen to the Sasquatch communicating with each other. There must have been 5 or 6 in the group. They made sounds like coyotes, owls, all kinds of whistles, and my wife's favorite, the monkey sounds. The closest zoo is 130 miles away, and I don't think they have monkeys. Now, every time I'm in the woods, I know I'm being watched. I've seen them looking into my windows, watching me cut firewood, peeling logs for my projects, etc. I have left them white turkey feathers, and they have left me dead mice on my deck. That's odd. Our cats leave dead mice all over our deck nonstop. I have a dozen stray feral cats, and they didn't go anywhere near the mice. Well, that's weird. I have had them help me drop a tree as the wind was blowing and the tree wouldn't fall the way I wanted. And I said out loud, "Come on, fall, you effer." And at that moment, it felt like it was being pushed hard. As soon as it hit the ground the way I wanted it to fall, I said, "Thank you," out loud. 5 years ago, I was felling trees for a logging company. I felled a big tree and was limbing it as a knot the size of a golf ball bounced off of my hard hat. I shut off my saw and turned to the clump of trees from where it came from, smiled and said, "Hello, I'm not here to hurt anyone or anything. I'm just here to do a job." Earlier that day, I'd seen 2 sets of footprints, one the size of my work boots and the other the size of a 10-year-old's bare footprint. I tried to take a picture, but my phone was completely dead. And 2 hours earlier, it was at full charge. But like you say, Steve, pictures have been taken already. One morning, I was headed to work long before the sun rose. I was just cruising along and looked over, and clinging to the side of a big tree was a bat person. I was at awe thinking about what I'd just seen. Thought about it all day at work. I drove home and looked at the spot I had seen it, and nothing. The next morning, as I was headed to work, I slowed a little as I got closer to where I'd seen the thing, and again it was clung to the tree, but its eyes were red and it looked pissed off. I sped up and got to work a bit earlier, and that was the last time I've seen it, but something I won't forget. As I've been told from others, we are made from Sasquatch. They are the original species on this planet. I was told we would all be Sasquatch if the Anunnaki hadn't manipulated our DNA. And yes, Steve, you are right. We have powers and abilities that have been hidden from us. A group of Native American elders sat around a fire. One took out his knife and cut his leg. He grabbed a bit of ash from the fire and rubbed it into his cut. And when he was done, the cut was gone. The next one did it to his hand, and the same thing, it was gone. They would laugh like they were telling jokes. They were mind speaking with each other. Okay, Steve, I'll sign off for now. If you all want more experiences of mine, I can write in again with more. Thanks you all, Todd. That's a handful, Todd. That's a whole shitload. The bat person thing, I've never heard of that before in my life. Myself, and you didn't give me his description of that. How big it was, what his face looked like, why did it look like a bat person? And your abduction stuff, it's all like holy shit stuff, right? But I can't say it did or didn't happen. But let's just see how many people chime in that just might be sitting in the back of the bleachers here watching and listening and not saying nothing, hoping somebody's going to come up with something that they experienced too. This is how we get to the bottom of shit, right? This is how we get truth shared, listening to everybody no matter what. And take from what you will or leave it. But the underground thing, man, it's been talked about by a lot of people, hasn't it? The underground tunnel systems, etc. And even had somebody email me photos. And they said they were hauling literally tons of dead chickens underground forever, and showed me the picture of driving through the tunnels. Some crazy shit. Share away, man. You got more. Send it. Send it. This next email is titled, "Okay, I'll spill it." All right, spill away. Steve, I've written before just a short blast about the Romans knowing full well about the Sabe. Not being an eyewitness, I didn't have a relevant story until now. You've been on an absolute tear. May, June, you constantly read shares that locked in several conclusions of my puzzle. One share came from an Aboriginal elder, and at first I thought he'd share, but he held back. 100,000 years of tribal history. They know a lot. They still know how to enter the dream time. Then there was the hunter who went to Peru, ayahuasca, as a doorway. Thomas Oswell and his experiences with psilocybin. There's a commonality emerging. In the late 70s and early 80s, I'd gone down the path of Carlos Castaneda and his books. We sought knowledge and experience that was real in search for meaning. I have extensive experiences using mushrooms, peyote, and the ultimate tool that we ever found, mescalito. Mescalito? I had a connection out of New York City who knew some Navajo in Arizona. We purchased repeatedly. And organic pulpy orange powder that was the gateway to the source, if you will. It's a little known fact that the giant saguaro cactus is chock full of mescaline, just like the rarer peyote. No wonder they're protected. You boil that shit down, dry out the solids, powder it, mescalito. One friend and I stayed up for 3 days once. The experiences were grounding and life-altering. I didn't learn any cosmic secrets, but my perceptions of humanity and our nature were sharpened, and I learned to trust my intuition about everything. I knew at 15 the world was total bullshit. Good for you, man. The only warning I would give about psychedelics is that once you go there, in every dose it connects you or allows you to connect to the source. When you pass the peak and begin to come down, there will be an infinite loss and regret when you lose the connection and the veil closes again. You realize it's gone. The knowledge seems to slip away like a dream, and you're back, left, trying to put it all together. That passes, and you're left in the afterglow. Truth, intention, malice, nothing can be hidden in that dream time. In my humble opinion, it's the connectivity of consciousness that's been dumbed down out of us. Hard to control / govern / mislead a population that's interconnected on a psychic level. Lies are revealed and your heart is laid bare. There's no deception. They hide the truth about Sabe because they wish to control / possess and then weaponize their abilities. They can't admit to something beyond their control. Agreed. Now, I have a story to add to a pattern we're developing. My orb story. It was 1979, 1980, and we were driving late at night, tripping our balls off. Is what we did. Drive the back roads in our space module for hours at a time. We were right near the large body of water I lived nearby, and as we rounded a corner on the blasted... As we rounded a corner and blasted down... blasted down a long hill, my friend in the back began shouting wildly. I saw a flaming ball, and then it just disappeared. As we were all under the influence, we blew him off, scoffed at him. We did what people always do, ridicule and disbelief, so ironic. And fast forward a couple of weeks, 7 p.m. in the early evening, driving 2 friends, stone cold sober. We were approaching the same body of water on the other side. A bright light through the trees caught my attention, and I joked, "Is that the moon?" Which was full. Then we realized the moon was behind us, and what we were seeing was something weird. As we rolled up onto the bridge across a feeder stream to the lake, we had a clearer view out over the water. And there was an orb out over the lake. It was so big. It was the size of a car, maybe 15 feet in diameter, glowing like a miniature sun. We all got out of the car to observe. Standing at the side of the road, the light clearly illuminated our faces, the nearby woods, and reflected off the still water like a sunrise. There was a static charge in the air, a weirdness, a hum that was almost undetectable. But there, I think, mad EMF of some sort. It was moving slowly, changing altitude a little, but it was 50 to 60 feet off the water, no more. And as we were watching over the visible horizon, a small plane came into view, and the orb suddenly, instantly vanished, gone. When the plane went out of sight, the orb switched back on about 200 yards to the right from where it disappeared. We continued to watch for another minute or two, and then it vanished again. But this time it didn't just blink out. It faded edge to edge like it went behind something or through something. We were effing amazed. This all happened, and the orb could have been seen from where my friend had screamed from the back of the seat about 300 yards away a couple of weeks earlier. So, when someone tells a story, you might want to give some thought, not scoff and doubt. For those guys seeing lights in the forest that seemed like daylight, this damn thing was a bright as shit and would light up a forest like crazy. Well, there you go, Steve. Love you dearly and mad respect, Bill Osborne. Right on, Bill. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate the kind words and the share, the honesty. A lot of people can relate. I know a lot of people have gone the ayahuasca route, psychedelic route. Hell, I ate some mushrooms this morning, but we're microdosing mushrooms. Been doing that for over a year. It doesn't change. I don't feel, it doesn't make you stoned or anything. It's just, it assists your brain, believe it or not. It's all natural and healthy. Whew. The bright orbs, the bright balls of light. You know, Sarah, we were talking a little while ago. I asked her again, years ago, one time. Her family, her dad and her brothers in New Brunswick on the dairy farm. They have a great time with each other when they all get together in the same place, and they were doing something. Obviously having family time and drinks and shit and fun. And way out back of their place, it's all just goes on forever. Spruce forest, moose, deer, and eventually ocean. And she said they all looked back there, and all of a sudden there was some light lighting up the forest like a frickin' spotlight out back. And they're like, holy shit, look at that. What's that? And I'm like, I don't know. And then they didn't really do anything or go out there to go try to get near it or anything. Just kind of like, whoa, what the hell is that? I don't know. I'm going to mix a drink. They sort of shrugged it off, and that was it in New Brunswick. A lot goes on in New Brunswick too, but I'm just saying about the bright lights. It's a huge pattern. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people seeing these lights in their homes like our home. Over water, in the forest, going down a trail. Oh, here's a long one. Okay, I'm going in. Appreciate you, man. Keep sharing. Keep learning. And keep me posted. 1995 Thanksgiving fishing trip. Long is the title of this email. Excuse me. Hello, Steve. Thank you for your channel and the knowledge that is shared. I appreciate the time you give us. My name is John, and this took place in 1995. For the past 9 years since, I realized this was a Bigfoot experience. I've been trying to make myself tell this to my friend Adam, who I was with that day. We live in different parts of the country. Haven't seen each other face to face in 29 years, but have stayed in touch through modern technology. I just can't make myself bring it up in a phone call to discuss the events of that trip and say, we had a Bigfoot experience. Send him this video. I kind of feel I need to get the conversation with him off my chest, even if he laughs and dismisses it at all. So I thought, if you read it, I could tell him. I submitted our Thanksgiving fishing story to a YouTube channel. Buckle up, it's going to get weird. Listen to it and tell me what you remember. Here's the link. All right, perfect blind man. Thank you for your help, Steve. Sorry this is long, but it is complete. I want to jog my friend's memory. Let's do it. So the story. It was Thanksgiving weekend, 95, and we were both college students at the University of Montana. We got to know each other a little, living on the same floor of the dorm. But this weekend really started our friendship. The weekend holiday was too short for either of us to travel long distances to see family, so we were going to be two of the very few people left in the dorm for the holiday. Once he realized we were both in the same predicament, he proposed an idea. He would do the legwork on renting a cabin in the mountains for us to go trout fishing. We would split the cost, and I would provide the transportation to get there. I thought it was a fantastic idea. I'd never done anything like this before in my simple farm boy life and thought it would be a memorable, lifelong experience. I am shocked at how true the thought has been over the past 28 years. We leave campus on the day before Thanksgiving and arrive at the cabin area in the late afternoon. The owner met us up on our arrival, and we had to again reassure him we were sportsmen looking forward to spending Thanksgiving Day fishing and not college punks looking for a party spot. This was his concern over the previous phone calls, and wasn't reassured until he could see us in person, apparently. He emphasized to us that this was his off season, and that we were the only guests, and that he had made an exception for two far from home students on a holiday. Once he was confident that our intentions were exactly what we had stated them to be, he became a very warm and welcoming host with a friendly energy. He took us to the cabin that would be ours for the night. It was about the size of a two-car garage, at one end of the cabin having two beds placed foot to foot with the headboards against the opposite walls, and a fireplace in the middle. The other end of the single room was a 4-seat table and cooking area with a front side of the front side of the cabin, and a tiled floor bench area at the back door, with paned windows running the length of that wall, giving me the feeling of looking out of a greenhouse. And as we entered, the owner began the short tour of our accommodations and gave us the rundown on the rules. No burning of garbage, no cutting of wood in the area, where additional firewood could be found and things like that. Then says, "And here's your bathroom," as he leads us to the back door and points to an outhouse against the brush line about 10 yards from the back door. It was, let's say, not as nice as the rest of our accommodations. Adam and I stood there in skepticism as the host gave us more do's and don'ts about the outhouse. And at the end of this, being the happy to be here 20-something smartasses that we were, Adam humorously says, "I don't know, man, that thing looks pretty sketchy. If I use that, Bigfoot might get my ass." I laughed and said, "Don't worry, man, I brought extra cigars. If Bigfoot shows up, I'll give him one." We both chuckled to each other and turned around and looked at the owner. Our humor freezes. The owner is standing there in shock, his mouth agape with the most angry, dumbfounded look on his face. He holds this pose for a couple of seconds and then shakes it off, throwing his hands in the air with pissed disgust, and says, "That hot plate is in that cabinet. You guys figure the rest out." He stomps his way across the room and out the front door, half slamming it shut behind him. It was like he flipped a switch from cheerful, helpful host to, "You two are the biggest dumbasses I've ever seen." That's weird. We tried to thank him for the tour in the awkward moment before the door shut. We stood there in nervous silence looking out the window of the outhouse. Adam turns to me and says, "Did you notice how that guy just changed? He must not like me calling his outhouse sketchy." I said, "Well, it is sketchy. And that's not that bad a thing to say. Maybe he doesn't want us smoking cigars in the cabin, but why wouldn't he just tell us, 'No smoking in the cabin'?" We dismissed this as an odd event, and set about unpacking for the night. And for years after, I'm sure my friend thought the sketchy outhouse comment set that guy off, and I thought it was my cigar comment. I now am quite sure it was the Bigfoot joke that caused his reaction. I shake my head now at how the evening started with a Bigfoot joke, and we never gave that another thought with the events that were to come. After supper, we decided to spend the night playing cards at the kitchen table. I wedged myself into the cramped space between the table and the windows, which were inches from my back. Adam proceeds to teach me a card game I had never heard of before called Knock Rummy. I was never good at card games and had never played rummy, but I was up for trying to learn. It's now fully dark outside, and the cabin only really had enough light to play a card game by. I earnestly try to learn this new game, but I'm not getting it. Adam's patient with re-explaining the rules to me, but my lack of progress is taxing for him, so I am trying to focus on the game and remember the rules. I start to feel uncomfortable, and I have a strong feeling of being stared at. Eventually, I have to give in and turn around in my chair and look out the window at who could be staring at me. And just to my left, about 4 feet outside the window, is an 8-foot tall dark cedar tree in the black shadow of the cabin. The light source was just past 3 o'clock to the windows, creating a wedge of shadow, and I have to rise up on one buttock and lean to see around the right edge of this black cedar so I can see the side yard, which is all lit up from the yard light on the property. The side yard is cast in the dim bluish white of the yard light, and I quickly glance at all the trees and their shadows. I see nothing, so I turn back to the game. Once again, I'm trying to focus and learn the game. And soon my skin begins to crawl, with an even stronger feeling of being stared at. It's distracting and uncomfortable. I give in again, and I turn a second time, raise up on one buttock to lean away from the cedar and look out at the side yard. This time I look closer at every tree and shadow out there, and I see nothing. I turn back to the game. In a few minutes, the stared at feeling is even stronger, and I'm starting to squirm in my chair with the skin crawling on my back. I'm picking at the fabric of my shirt to relieve the sensation. And a third time I swivel, buttock, rise and lean deeper to see around that tree to see who the heck is angrily staring at me. There's no one out there. What the heck's going on? With frustration, I turn back to the game, having not explained to Adam what I kept feeling. And I am distracted from the game, feeling frustrated, and at some point I realize I'm physically lifting the shirt off my shoulders, then plucking the fabric to relieve the crawling skin sensation. I've had it with the mystery, so I slap down my cards and shove some room to really turn around. Adam's fully frustrated with my distraction from the game and asks, "What do you keep looking at?" For a fourth time, I swiveled and rose up on one buttock, went to lean, and I froze in shock. The 8-foot tall black cedar tree that was 4 feet from the tip of my nose was gone. I had a completely unobstructed view of the side yard. I jumped to my feet, looking back and forth in shock. I could see the side yard very well in the yard's light glow, and in panic, I barked the question at Adam. "Are there headlights coming up the driveway? Tell me if there are headlights out there." He's confused at my state of mind, but jumps up and looks out the front windows and tells me no, there's nothing out there. I then ask him the question again, ask him if he was sure, and he was sure. I then ask, "Did the owner of this place turn on more lights or porch lights?" He's still confused, but looks around the front windows and says, "No, nothing. Why are you asking me about lights?" All I could say is, the shadows in the side yard have changed. I could not say, the 8-foot tall black cedar tree 4 feet outside my window apparently walked away. I was confused as to why such a drastic change to the view of the side yard had occurred, but I settled for thinking there was some new light source out there changing what I'd seen. All went back to normal for the rest of the evening, and it became time for us to turn in for the night. I took the bed farthest from the front door, and Adam took the one closest to it, which was where the only light switch for the one-room cabin was located. Once I got comfortable, he volunteered to shut off the light and stumble in the dark the 4 steps to his bed. Light goes off. I hear him shuffle to his bed and throw the covers over himself, and 3 seconds later there is a booming whoop that shakes the entire cabin. Been there. I've described this sound as being like a is being like a dead German shepherd being thrown against the wall at 30 miles per hour. Whoom! Rattle, rattle, rattle. We both sit straight up in bed and freeze. And after a second, Adam leaps out for the light switch, and we sit there in shock asking, "What was that?" Staring at each other. He asked if it could maybe be a deer that ran out of the woods and ran headfirst into the wall. That's funny. That's what I thought too at first. What happened to me? I said no. The impact came from above the rafters, about 10 feet up the wall. Neither of us had a good explanation, but I said maybe the cold night air outside and the warm fireplace inside made the rafters flex and thump with the temperature difference. Neither of us seemed convinced of that explanation, but eventually it was enough for us to shrug our shoulders and go back to bed. The lights go off again, and after a few seconds I hear something and lift my head from my pillow at a commotion going on outside. My side of the cabin was closest to the property owner's house, and I asked Adam, "You hear that?" He says, "No, what?" I say, "This guy who owns this place is yelling his ass off at something." He asks, "What's he saying?" And I repeat, the hee-yaw, hee-yaw, get the hell out of here. Go. Get away from that. God damn it, get the hell out of here. I'm the only one of us two that can hear this. My friend then says the owner's probably yelling at raccoons in the trash cans. I think, oh, sure, of course. There are raccoons in the trash cans. We're in the woods, of course that's it. And I swear to this day, the last thought I had as I laid back down was, holy cow, that guy really hates raccoons. As far as I know, we had a quiet night from then on. So we wake up in the morning on Thanksgiving Day and are excited for the day of fishing. I am ready first, so I tell my friend I'll go out and start my Jeep Wagoneer and meet him out there. I exit the cabin and just stop short on my vehicle. I stand in shock and drop my armload of gear as I see about 15 muddy handprints all over my Jeep. I'm embarrassed to say it today, but I'd been very immature overreaction. I've been robbed! I stomp around my vehicle thinking, what the frick? I was so mad. There are muddy handprints on the roof, on the doors and the quarter panels, muddy drag marks of fingers over the door handles. Dang it, I was mad, and I was going to call the cops. I pull out my waterproof disposable film camera and I had for recording memories of the trip and got ready to start recording the evidence. And right then I see the evidence is going to crack the case wide open. Right in the center of the driver's side rear window is a face print. The perfect kid looking through the window of a candy store, greasy face print. 2 cupped hands on each side of the round forehead blob. A right side up triangle nose blob and an upside down triangle chin blob. I take an evidence photo, snapping the picture. Just then, Adam comes out of the cabin with half his gear and sees me taking a picture of a window of all things and confusedly asks, "What are you doing?" I exclaim, "I've been robbed. Some muddy homeless mountain hippie broke into the vehicle. Look at all the handprints." And proceed with my rant as I point out the handprints. My rant brings me to the driver's side of the hood, and there's this perfect handprint for my next evidence photo. It was the left hand and looked like someone was wearing fur-cuffed muddy gloves. At the base of this handprint was wispy drag marks of muddy hair, and the print was the color of chocolate milk. I think, aha, the person's wearing fur-cuffed gloves. And I need this as my next evidence photo. And right when I get the camera lined up for the perfect photo, my finger on the shutter button, Adam asks me, "Well, what'd they steal?" I dropped my camera hand to my side, suddenly concerned at what they could have taken. I grab the driver's door handle and wrench my arm as the locked door doesn't budge. I then try the driver's side rear, and it's locked too. I tell Adam to try the doors on his side, and they're all locked as well. So no one was able to get in the vehicle, and there's nothing missing. This realization completely diffused my angry rant, and it all suddenly became no big deal. No reason to take photos of the handprints, just get the vehicle unlocked and get on with the fishing trip. So that's what I did. And as he gets the other half of his gear from the cabin, I walk 20 yards down the driveway and take a keepsake picture of my Jeep in front of the cabin. The camera was still ready for that perfect hood handprint, so I needed to use that shutter click on something. I'll include the photo, but distance and angle doesn't show the prints. Then we just went fishing. Had a great Thanksgiving day in the mountains catching trout. We returned to the end of the day to get our luggage from the cabin. The owner came out and asked how the fish were biting and very timidly asked how our night's stay was. He seemed way too relieved to hear we slept well and had no problems. And that stuck out as weird to me. And 20 years later, I'm looking at my photo album from that year, just enjoying a trip down memory lane. And I come to the photo of my Jeep in front of the cabin. Tucked in behind the photo is the face print photo. And I think, why have I saved a face print photo of some muddy homeless mountain hippie that tried to break into my vehicle 20 years ago? I pitched the photo in the trash without a thought. 2 years after that, I started listening to first-person Bigfoot encounter stories. After over 100 accounts that include wall slapping and window peeking, stared at feelings and greasy handprints, I realized what happened to us. I'm so mad I threw that away, the photo away, the perfect kid looking in the candy store window face print. Anyway, thanks for the time you devoted to reading this. As soon as I hear it read, I'll send him the link and see what he remembers. You and Sarah are in my prayers. Sincerely, John. John, appreciate that, man. Big timber there too, huh? Okay, let's see if I'm going to do it this way. There it is. There's the vehicle in the cabin and where it went down. That would have been interesting to see that face print, wouldn't it? Excuse me, I wonder why the handprints are so greasy. Oh, I wonder, what is the greasy thing? What does it have to do with anything? Why is it always a greasy substance left from their hands? I wonder. Have I read this? Excuse me. I appreciate that email, my man, and I hope your friend listens to this with an open mind, because a lot of people block it out no matter what and deny no matter what, right? There's tens of thousands of people here that have had this shit go down. Just so you know, to your friend. This next email is titled, If It Was There, It Was Cloaked. Did I read this? I don't think so. Hi, Steve. Call me Mary Mac. I've been watching for 5 years, and I thank you for helping so many who have had those terrifying experiences. This experience happened to a friend whose son and girlfriend were walking in the forest behind their homes here in New Brunswick last summer, 2024. They were walking and heard a growl, and had felt the ground vibrating with heavy steps, but did not see anything around them. This scared them, and they left. My friend told me their experience, and she knows I believe these creatures are real and everywhere on the planet. I asked if there was any smell, and they hadn't mentioned any. So sad how some won't accept the proof that many have seen and are ridiculed when telling the story. I watch every day. Beautiful country. Show us. Take care. All right. Short and sweet, to the point. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. Okay, here's one more fresh out of the pan I'm going to share, and then I'm going to get going because I got a lot to do. My truth, and kudos to Sarah. I hope I spelled her name correctly. I'll start with the kudos. I just watched your July 19, 2025 video, quote, look where I am and see what I recorded, end quote. All right, that was yesterday, wasn't it? Where you found that new logging road that saved you a 3+ hour hike up the mountain in the dark. You're Superman. Thanks, but I'm probably super crazy. Sarah's doctor's reaction to Sarah's self-healing without taking the prescribed chemical nightmare was absolutely alarming, but not surprising. Yeah, right? She really emphasized later on. I told her I shared it on here, and she really emphasized how the doctor went aggressive and sour on her. Isn't that amazing? The goal was to get her cholesterol way down. She said it was way, way down. It's really working. Something to be happy about, but all that happiness fizzled instantly when she said she didn't take a prescription. It makes me mad. So glad to hear that Sarah knew better than to take the meds, and has proved to all of us that they are, by and large, unnecessary. Not all, but many health conditions can be cured using Sarah's approach. We just need to avoid all the unhealthy, highly processed food. Basically, anything in the grocery store that is not found around the perimeter. Most of what you find in the aisles is poison. Drink plenty of good water and stay active. Sarah just proved that to all of us. My truth is not about these beings, it's about Western medicine. Today's doctors are trained and incentivized to push the latest pharmaceuticals. I found almost by accident that acupuncture works. I was 5 months pregnant with my now 30-year-old daughter. I got a bad case of sciatica. Don't know that word. Sciatica. My OB told me that this was not unusual, and once I had the baby, it would go away. With the specter of 4 more months of this, I found an acupuncturist in town. 2 treatments in 1 week, and it was gone. I slowly understood what I said above. In the past 10 years, I've only gone to a doctor twice. I'm 61 and I don't take any meds. All right. I realized that if acupuncture worked, so would acupressure. I've cured myself of several ailments, including a gallbladder problem, using acupressure on myself. Just search acupressure points for fill in the blank. Cholesterol is an example. This will bring you a bunch of websites where they tell you which acupressure points are best for your ailment and where these points are. You can use the highly popular Google, but I don't trust those censoring scuzzballs one bit. I use brave.com. I'm hoping to reach Sarah and the hundreds of thousands of good folks here on your channel with this truly life-altering information. I encourage everyone to remember this option if they develop any kind of health problem. Of course, there will be conditions that require medical intervention. If one of my legs comes off, yeah, I'm probably going to go to a doctor. So many conditions for which Big Pharma has developed profitable medications can be improved or even eliminated by doing what Sarah did and with using acupressure. Last component of good health that has changed my life is intermittent fasting. I endeavor every day to eat within a 6-hour window. The other 18 hours, I have only water. The health benefits are phenomenal. Thank you for this channel and for giving everyone a forum to try to figure out what the fluff is going on in this world. Learning that monsters are real is life-changing. Your undertaking here is nothing short of miraculous. Love and peace to all. Andrea O'Neill. Andrea, absolutely appreciate your concern for all the people on the planet and sharing your truth and all that handy information. That's what I love about doing this. Right? Everyone just coming together. Everybody's equal. Nobody's an authority. And we all share what we know. Right? How does it get better than that? How does it get better than that? Anyway, what am I going to do now? I got to go out and get my siding, my shop wood paneling done. What a pain in the ass. What a bummer that is. Side note, sorry. Meaning I'm not talking about the email just sent in. I'm just going straight to my grief, which I shouldn't be doing. Whatever. I got to get that done because I'm going to be on the water a lot very shortly, and I can't leave this job undone. And I ripped all the wood off the top gable to the peak. And I got stung in the face by the wasp nest. But anyway, I got to get it going and get that done. And I have to reconnect with the man that came on here to have a conversation with me, and we got chopped off by no internet. I don't even know if the internet's working yet because I'm just recording on my laptop right now, but I'll figure it out. And the health thing, the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry is dark for the most part. Not all, but a lot of it's freaking dark, man. Holy shit. Like I said, you want some clarity in life? You want some clarity in thinking in your mind and what to do and not to do? What you should be focusing on? Leave your phone in your vehicle and go out in the mountains or the forest for a day or two. It's all it takes, away from anybody. Especially with a view. Big timber, whatever you got, do it. Just do it. The view is pretty good. I understand there's a lot of places in North America or around the world there's no view. It's just hardwoods forever. And I get it. Go into the forest then. Go to the edge of a river, a creek, sit there, look at the rocks, figure out just how old they are. How long's that creek been there and those trees compared to you? in this made-up society, man-made society that surrounds us and is causing, lately, nothing but grief. Nothing but grief. Failing. Incredibly failing across the board. All right, I'll try to shut my mouth. I could go on, right? I could go on. Maybe I should just have one day, just talk about everything and just let it rap. Have a little rant session about unrelated topics to what we predominantly talk about here that's going on in the real world, right? But anyway, maybe one day later. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Get me your truth. Share with me what you know. All right? Even though you might not know exactly, but you know what you've seen, you know what you heard, you know what you felt, you know what you heard. I want to hear it. I need to hear it all right? I'm running out of time. We all are. So please share with me what you know, all right? I don't give a shit how crazy it sounds. I want to hear about it. So share my story at howtohunt.com. And if you want me to share it, I'll share it word for word. Typos and all. I'll be back later. All right, here we go. A little late on the camera, but I wasn't expecting to be going off. I've caught 5 salmon here so far this morning. One big one. So we shall see. I don't know if anybody can see, but in the beach, right there. Oops, where am I? Right there is a big black bearing cub on the beach. I don't know if you can zoom in on your screen or not. I think I got a squid. Yes, catches a squid. Beautiful. This is gonna catch me a big salmon. Oh, it tore the head off another one too. Whoops. All right, hold on a minute. Where's my bucket? I get my frozen nasty squid, chuck that. And then I put my new little friend on here, and down he goes. There we go. Got another one. That's like number 5 this morning. It's awesome. It's a big fish.